Hi guys! Well, as you can see, I'm by myself again. Well, my dog Maggie's probably insulted by that. She's here too, chewing on a rawhide. And Mrs. Schmidt, let me fix this a little bit. Mrs. Schmidt is at least not in bed right now. She's actually on the couch in the living room, so that's good, right? But still not her happy self, So hopefully she'll feel better tomorrow and can be on the video and surprise us. So we're just gonna try to do the video again by herself with Maggie and see how we do. Alright, so it says May 21st reading. Read, let me find my mouse. Read for 20 minutes. Okay, and we know we're supposed to read 30 minutes. Use a book of your own or an article from the end of this packet. Same thing every day, right? Okay. The Great Migration and the Growth of Cities from your packet. Pages 17 and 18. Read paragraphs 11 through 14 together. Ask your child to point out specific evidence as to what life was like for African Americans who moved north in the early part of the 20th century. Okay. So, as you can see, I blacked out, well, I whited out paragraph 11 and paragraph 12. Let me see. Look on my paper. All right, it talks about how they left the South and the number that left the South. And then we get to this chart at the bottom of page 17 that says the growth of African American populations in U.S. cities 1910 to 1930. Okay. Population in 1910 is a bar represented by dark orange, and then population in 1930 is a bar represented by regular orange. And wow, look at New York. It more than tripled from 1910 to 1930. As I was reading this page, I thought it was interesting that they said that if an African American lived on the coast, then they moved from a southern coastal city to a northern coastal city. And if they lived, generally, I'm sure that wasn't everyone, but generally that's what happened. If you lived on the coast, you moved up the coast to a northern city along the coast. And if you lived farther inland, then you moved north to an inland city that was in the north. So I just thought that was interesting. I imagine because transportation was much more difficult back then. And it would have probably had a more similar climate, it'd be colder because you're moving north. But if you were by the ocean, you were used to the humidity and everything that comes with that. Okay, let's go down. So here we're on page 18. And this is where I found my answers to the question. I don't know about you guys. Okay. But let's read the captions and the photos first. So it says Langston Hughes wrote many poems during the Harlem Renaissance. He was one of the first poets to use jazz, rhythms, and dialect in his portrayal of African American life. And here's an excerpt from The Weary Blues. Droning a drowsy syncopated tune, rocking back and forth to a mellow croon, I heard a Negro play down on Lenox Avenue the other night, by the pale, dull pallor of an old gaslight. He did a lazy sway, to the tune of those weary blues. Langston Hughes, 1923. Cool. Duke Ellington band member Cootie Williams, right here with the trumpet, playing his trumpet in a Harlem ballroom in the 1930s. And do those people look happy? Yes, they do. So they're enjoying the music, and you can see that some of them realize they're having a photograph taken, and they're looking at the camera. But everybody's happy. This guy's clapping his hands. This guy's, or maybe that's a lady, I don't know. Somebody back there is clapping their hands too. So anyway, what did I find on this page? All right, so paragraph 13. Let's refer back to the question real quick. Okay, it says, ask your child to point out specific evidence as to what life was like for African Americans who moved north in the early part of the 20th century. So they want to know, what was life like for the African Americans who actually migrated north. All right. So on this page, I found in paragraph 13, it says the newcomers discovered that life in the North had its own set of problems. Jobs in slaughterhouses and steel mills paid well, but were often demanding and dangerous. Yeah. Women competed for jobs as maids and laundresses. Places to live were hard to find in the crowded cities, especially because racism and prejudice often kept African Americans out of many white neighborhoods. So it sounds like it was better than in the South, but still had its own set of problems, right? I mean, still lots of bad parts to it too. Paragraph 14, I liked this sentence. It says, one of the most successful neighborhoods was Harlem in New York City. By the 1920s, about 200,000 African Americans lived there, and a new black culture emerged. Musicians, artists, poets, and writers gathered in Harlem, which is what we were seeing in this picture here. Cool. Their art was often about the struggle of African Americans as they tried to establish their rights as citizens. This period of creativity and vibrancy in the African American community is known as the Harlem Renaissance. That's awesome. And by the way, Renaissance means rebirth. It's a French word. Okay. So let's go down. You guys can talk about it and decide how you want to respond. Let me see. Ask your child to point out specific evidence. It doesn't really say we have to write anything with that. So just talk about it. Maybe you can write it in the annotation note area. What you find. Okay. May 21st writing prompt. Write a diary entry about a place you have traveled to or want to travel to. All right. So to give you guys ideas, I said, okay, what would I write about if I wrote about a place I traveled to? So I thought about one of my favorite trips that I always remember. And then if I wrote about where I wanted to travel to, I could do that too, but I chose the trip that I had the most fun and fond memories of. And it was when I went to Frisco City, Alabama with my Granny D. She was my grandma. And it was just the two of us. I think I was about 14 years old. And I lived in California at that time, but I went over there to Florida to visit her, and then we drove from Pensacola, Florida to Frisco City, Alabama in her little Chevrolet car. And I remember when we were walking around the property there, it was a farmland and it was really awesome. It had red clay roads and the house was far from the main street. If you were when we went there, there was a street, I don't even know the name of the street, but it was paved, and then to get to the house you had to go off onto this dirt road that was red clay by a cotton field on the right, and I don't know what kind of field was on the other side, but some kind of farm field was there. Anyway, I remember walking with her, and we were walking through a pea patch that was in a garden that was near the house, and she flipped over. She tripped and kind of rolled over, and I was worried because my granny back then, she was in her 60s, and seeing your grandma flip over, that's a scary thing. And I saw her and I thought she was crying because her face was really red, and she wasn't crying, she was laughing because she just thought it was a really funny thing that she flipped over like that. And I was so relieved, and then I was laughing too. So anyway, I'm telling you all those details because that's the type of thing I would write in my diary entry. And that's what you guys should do. Think about a trip you went to where you have really good memories, hopefully, and write a lot of details about it. Okay. Down farther, we have inflectional ending. And wow, guys, I said inflectional endings. Do they know what inflectional endings are? Do I know what inflectional endings are? Because at first I thought, okay, are they talking about the way you pronounce the word? And no, they were not. Although that can be part of inflection. But in this case, they're just talking about the endings that they add to the words. So I put a lot of definitions here, and I'm not going to read them all to you. I'll show them to you. but let's look at them. Okay, so we have inflect, verb, inflect, third person present. Oh, I'm not going to read all that, it'll be boring. But anyway, it's changing the form of a word to express a particular grammatical function or attribute, typically tense, as in past tense, or these other tenses that are listed here in the examples. And okay, so indicating a grammatical function, changing the function or attribute, typically the tense, the mood, the person, the number, the case, or gender. All right. Whew. Here's two. So this is what I was thinking maybe it was referring to when I saw the title. Vary the intonation or pitch of the voice, especially to express mood or feeling. But nope, in this case, they're just talking about the suffixes that they add and the purpose that they're put there for. All right, so here we have inflectional, right? Here was the definition for inflect. You hear my Maggie drinking back there? Here's inflectional. Inflectional, relating to or involving a change in the form of a word to express a grammatical function or attribute. Inflected endings are a subcategory of suffixes that indicate the tense of a word. Walked, okay, walk with an ed, or walking, walk with ing after it, or walks, walk with an s after it. And the number of things, so it's not just the tense, it can also be the number. So cat with an s is cats, and fox with es is foxes. It tells you that there's a plural instead of a singular. All right, so now we can look at the paper. But I just don't want to look at the title, inflectional endings, and not say anything about that and assume you guys know what that is, because that's an interesting, for a fifth grader, you know, I'm sure they never talked about inflectional endings. We talked about suffixes and prefixes, but not inflectional endings. Okay, so the first word is required. Then we have referred, ratified, popping, assembling, creating, exploded, inflating. And it says, write the spelling word that matches each definition. And I thought the first one, Maggie, what you doing, baby? I thought the first one could cause some trouble, right? I mean, I don't think the answer would be necessarily obvious. So, number one, sent to a particular place as a resource. So when you think about sending someone to a place, out of all these words, I would think it's referred. And so that's what I wrote on my paper. I said, okay, I think that's going to be referred. Now let me get my tablet. Forgot to get that ready. Okay, referred. Okay, good. We're ready to write. R-E-Ferred. Referred. Okay, so they're adding ed, and in this case they had to double the consonant to do that. Okay, so I think of this as when you go to a doctor or when you go to some business, sometimes they'll ask you, who referred you to us? And that means who sent you to us, right? Who sent you to use us as a resource? So that's how I decided that that would be the right answer for number one. Okay, number two, formally confirmed or approved. And remember, if you want to do these on your own, fine. Do it, pause it, and then check back. I'll wait. Are you done yet? Okay, good. Formally confirmed or approved, all right? This word always reminds me of the Constitution, right? Ratified. Formally confirmed or approved. When a bunch of people get together and say, yes, we approve of this. So it's ratified. Ratified. Okay, number three. Now, okay, these three words, 3, 4, and 5, listen to these definitions. Blew apart with a big bang. Okay? Blew apart. So we know we're looking for something that's in the past tense, right? So this is probably going to have an ed at the end. Pumping air into something to expand it. So this is the act of it happening now, right? So this is probably going to end with an ing. And this one has an ing in the definition as well. So we're probably looking for a word that has ing. Bursting open. Okay, blew apart, bursting open, pumping air into something. These are all related words, right? I mean, related definitions anyway. So which one would be blew apart with a big bang? Blew apart. Well, I know I'm looking for an ed word. And I know that because they're using past tense here in the definition. So I'm going to choose exploded. Exploded. The fireworks exploded in the sky. Pumping air into something to expand it. Okay. When you need a pump to air up your ball, what are you doing? You're inflating the ball. Inflating. Right? You don't want to burst it, right? So it's different from number 5. You don't want to burst the ball. You just want to pump it up. Inflating. And then number 5 is bursting open. So that sounds similar to exploding, right? But this reminds me of, there was a popcorn when I was a kid. I don't know if they still have it. Maybe they do. But it came in an aluminum pan with a paper lid and an aluminum foil lid underneath the paper. And you would like shuffle it on top of a burner on the stove. And as you did that, eventually you knew it was ready when the top bursted open, right? So bursting open is popping. For example, when a balloon bursts open, well, it pops. So if you're bursting open a balloon, you're popping it. You guys know that. I'm just having fun. Okay, fill in the boxes for the spelling word required. Ew, okay, so this one is a little different. It's another Freyer model here, and they want the meaning. So I didn't look it up. I just said, okay, what is required? If something is required, what does that mean? Well, it means it's mandatory. You have to have it, right? Mandatory. What else could it be? You need it to achieve some kind of goal, right? To live, to survive, to get a job. So it's something that's, let's do this, needed to survive. Well, to achieve a goal, I'll just say, because maybe it's not to survive. Maybe you just want to get a job. To achieve a goal. But surviving can be the goal you want too. Achieve a goal. Sentence. Okay, my sentence. You know what? I can type this one too. I can type it and it'll be faster. So, because it's I have kind of a long sentence. The school district, and you guys would have your own sentence, right? So I'm doing mine. The school district required teachers to obtain, let me see, Google certification. Yeah. And you get a certificate. So it's, yeah, anyway, what that means is we have to get this level 1 certificate to say that we know how to use all the Google apps. And you have to take a test to do it. So they required us to do it. That's my example sentence. Let's make the writing a little bit larger. Oh, or a lot larger. Okay. Okay, example. So aside from the sentence, they want an example. Let's see. Okay, so I gave an example of something that's required. Oxygen. Oxygen. Fix my Y there a little bit. Is required by mammals to live. Is required. And I don't know if that's what they wanted with an example, but that's what I wrote. Oxygen is required. Underline that. By. I guess, I mean, I'm kind of using it in a sentence again, but I'm using it in terms of the definition of it, right? Required by mammals to live. That's why it's required, right? If you don't have it, you'll die. Okay, related words, antonym. What's the opposite of required? I wrote unneeded. You could also say unnecessary, frivolous, maybe. Unneeded. I just chose unneeded. It could be extraneous. There's a lot of words it could be. Synonym, necessary, right? Ooh, I didn't mean to write a capital there. Necessary. Sometimes I use unnecessary capitals because I used to take architecture class and we had to write everything with capitals when we did drawings. Okay, necessary. Okay, and that will bring us to math. So guess what? In 21 minutes, we have finished ELA for today. All right? I hope you guys will watch the next video. I mean, most of you watch math instead of this video, so if you did watch this video, thank you. Maggie thanks you. She's proud that she got to be on the video with me, and I'll see you in a few minutes and we'll do some math.